If you've ever had that moment after sex where the room goes strangely quiet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're lying there, still catching your breath. Maybe he thinks that was amazing. Maybe you smile because you don't want to kill the mood. But inside, something feels unfinished. A little lonely. A little confusing. And your mind starts going, why is this harder than it looks? Why do I need more than this? Is something wrong with my body? Here's the truth most people never hear. Female orgasm usually isn't blocked by a lack of attraction. It's blocked by the wrong kind of stimulation, the wrong angle, and a nervous system that never fully gets to relax. You're not broken. You're not asking for too much. And this is not some sign that your body or your relationship is failing you. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 4 sex positions that most consistently support female orgasm, why they work, and how to use them in a way that creates more connection instead of more pressure. Let's get into it. Most couples believe better sex is about more passion, more thrusting, more chemistry, more effort. But the real truth is much simpler than that, and honestly, way more hopeful. For a lot of women, orgasm is less about intensity and more about precision. Less about going harder and more about getting the right pressure in the right place with the right rhythm while her nervous system feels safe enough to stay open. That's the part movies skip, that's the part porn skips, and that's the part most couples never learn. The clitoris is not just one tiny external spot. It has a much larger internal structure. So when a position creates more grinding, more angling, more rocking, or easier access to clitoral stimulation, it stops being random and starts becoming reliable. Not more effort, not more performance, not pretending penetration alone should do everything, but understanding how her body actually works. And here's what changes everything. When you stop treating orgasm like a performance test and start treating it like a conversation between anatomy, arousal, and safety, sex gets more relaxed, more connected, and way more real. Most couples fall into the same default pattern in missionary: in, out, faster, deeper, repeat. And most people in relationships assume that if penetration alone isn't doing it, the answer is more motion. But the deeper truth is that many female orgasms happen when the clitoris gets steady contact, not when the body gets more intensity. Her nervous system is reading consistency before her mind can even name pleasure. So when the movement becomes a rocking glide instead of deep thrusting, her body often stops bracing and starts opening. Here's what this looks like in real life. The disconnecting version sounds like, "Do you want it harder?" While he keeps moving the same way, and she feels herself drifting out of the moment thinking, "I guess I should be close by now." The connecting version sounds like, "Stay with me here," as he shifts slightly higher, keeps his pelvis pressed against hers, and they move in a slow grind instead of a slam. That tiny change matters, because now her brain is quietly registering, "Oh, there it is, don't stop that." That's the shift. Not deeper, not rougher, not more athletic, but align pressure on the areas that actually build orgasm. And when you do that, sex stops feeling like something she has to mentally push through and starts feeling like somewhere she can fully arrive. Most couples still carry this unspoken script that the person doing the penetrating should be leading the whole experience. But here's the part no one talks about. For a lot of women, orgasm gets easier the moment she can control the angle, pace, depth, and pressure herself. This isn't just about confidence. It's about regulation. When she can adjust her hips, lean forward, sit upright, grind instead of bounce, or stay exactly where the friction feels best, her body doesn't have to keep adapting to someone else's rhythm. It can finally build on its own. In one version, she's on top of performing, moving fast, trying to look sexy, thinking, "Am I taking too long?" He feels pressure too. He starts wondering, should I say something? Should I help? And now both people are in their heads. In the connecting version, she settles in, tilts her pelvis until the contact is right, and says, "Right there," slower. He stays present instead of taking that as criticism. He hears it as guidance. She feels agency instead of pressure. He feels included instead of shut out. And that's when her nervous system starts saying, "I'm safe enough to stay in this." This isn't a bedroom hack. This is what it looks like when pleasure becomes collaborative instead of performative. And when that happens, the walls between you start to come down, without either of you having to force a single thing. Most couples underestimate how much orgasm depends on feeling unhurried. They think if a position looks less intense, it must be less effective. But the real truth is that slower positions often create the exact kind of softness the body needs to stop guarding and start feeling. Side-lying takes performance out of the room. It reduces strain. It makes breath easier. It turns penetration into something gentler and more adjustable. And when you pair that with clitoral stimulation from a hand or a small toy, you combine two things many women need: steady internal sensation and direct external stimulation. Here's the contrast. In the disconnecting version, they're trying to recreate some high-energy, highlight reel version of sex when she already feels tired, distracted, or emotionally withdrawn. She's thinking, I want this, but I'm not there. He senses distance and gets more effortful instead of more attuned. In the connecting version, they turn toward each other differently. The pace slows. One hand stays on her clitoris. The other keeps her close. He isn't trying to impress her. She isn't trying to rush herself. And something in her starts whispering, this feels easy. I can actually stay here. That's the magic of this position, honestly. It removes the frantic energy that makes arousal disappear beneath the surface. And when you do that, your partner stops feeling like a puzzle to solve and starts feeling like a person you can melt into. Most couples hear doggy style and think depth, speed, intensity. But here's what nobody explains. The version most likely to support female orgasm is usually the modified version, not the chaotic one. A pillow under the hips. A slower pace. More pelvic angling. More control. Easy access to the clitoris. Maybe less thrusting and more targeted contact. Because what often matters isn't the visual of the position. It's whether the angle creates pressure against sensitive internal structures while still leaving room for direct external stimulation. In the disconnecting version, the movement gets fast and mechanical. He thinks, this should be working. She thinks, why am I disappearing right now? Her body may be receiving sensation, but not the kind that builds connection, safety, and climax. In the connecting version, they pause long enough to adjust. She props her hips. He slows down. A hand joins in. They treat her feedback like useful information, not mood-killing criticism. Maybe she says, a little less deep. More there. Maybe he answers, got you. Simple, grounded, real. And suddenly what felt like too much becomes exactly right. This is where it gets really interesting. Orgasm is often less about finding one magical position and more about turning a position into the right pattern of contact. That's when your partner stops feeling managed and starts feeling met. And if you step back, you can see the pattern in all four of these. The best positions for female orgasm are usually the ones that create clitoral access, pressure, angling, rhythm, and room for honest feedback. Not louder sex. Not more compromising. Not pretending penetration alone should do everything. But two people paying attention to what her body is actually saying. That's what emotionally available intimacy looks like. That's what repair looks like in real time, not just in arguments. In bed, too. So no, this isn't a checklist for becoming better at sex in some performative way. It's an invitation to become more present, more curious, more honest, more responsive. You stop chasing what looks hot from the outside and start building what feels real from the inside. And your partner will feel that difference before you even say a word. These aren't just tips for stronger orgasms. They're the beginning of becoming the kind of lover who listens, adjusts, and turns toward what actually creates connection. Because real sexual chemistry isn't about doing more. It's about learning what lets love, trust, and pleasure stay in the room long enough to bloom.